Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to show you a bit of a brow off, I guess, between the Kat Von D Signature Brow Pencil, the brand new one, and the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Wiz. I have both of mine in the shade medium brown, so I thought it'd be really helpful if you're kind of on the fence, if you already have the Anastasia one, do you need to pick up the Kat Von D one, or is it exactly the same? Is there any difference? Which is better? How do they perform on the brow, etc. We're going to hopefully answer all of those questions shortly. Quick disclaimer, I have snapped the end of my Anastasia Brow Wiz off. I didn't do it on purpose, it just fell off, it broke off, so that's the end with the spoolie. So other than that, they are, if I did still have my spoolie attached, they are very similar products, as you can see. Usually, obviously, the Anastasia has the spoolie exactly the same as the Kat Von D. You do get a bit more product with the Anastasia, but it is also quite a bit more expensive than the Kat Von D. I will have all of the sort of standard information for you on the screen so that you can see all the facts. I'm going to show you them close up. This is the Anastasia one here, and this is the Kat Von D one here. So hopefully you can see that the Kat Von D has a much flatter shape and is more along the lines of the Anastasia Brow Definer, but much smaller. It's the same size as the Brow Wiz, pretty much, but it has a flatter shape to it as opposed to the Anastasia, which is that sort of just tube type shape. So although the Kat Von D, which is this one just here, is that flatter shape, when you turn it on its edge, you can see how thin that is and how small in comparison to the Anastasia. I was really excited when I saw this because I loved the Benefit, what is it called, Goof Proof at first. When I first got it, it's very much that same shape, that sort of rectangular flatter shape, but it is way bigger. So as you can see, they are much more similar to each other in shape. So the new Kat Von D pencil is much more similar to the Goof Proof or to the Anastasia Brow Definer as opposed to the Precisely My Brow or the Brow Wiz, but it is much smaller. So I picked up the Brow Wiz and I much prefer that because it gives you more precise application when you're trying to outline or when you're trying to do hair-like strokes. However, I do also find that the Anastasia one is quite smudgy. It's a very soft formula, and it does really allow you to use a very light hand, a very small amount, barely touching as you apply it onto your skin. You use a really light hand with this one and it goes a really long way. But I do find that means that where I have like no natural hair on the inner corners of my brow, where the product is going straight onto skin, there's no hair there to support it. It doesn't last very long in that area. I also find it hard to do hair-like strokes there without them sort of all joining up or all just smudging together, because it is just that sort of size and shape that seems to happen. So I was very excited when I saw the Kat Von D because the size of it looked really nice and small, like the Brow Wiz, like Precisely My Brow, but the flatter shape reminded me of the Goof Proof as it was when it first started out, that I was going to be able to really get a precise outline of my brow and also really be able to do those hair-like strokes when you turn it the other way. So for shade comparisons, I'll just show you quickly on the back of my hand. This is the Kat Von D in the shade medium brown versus the Anastasia shade in the middle in medium brown, and this is shade 5 from Benefit. So if you use the medium brown in Anastasia, then medium brown in Kat Von D will be fine for you. The other thing I love about the Kat Von D pencil is it has this band of colour on the side that is the actual pencil, which I love because I'm forever with my other pencils opening both sides because I can never remember which side is a spoolie, which side is the actual brow product. So I really appreciate that she's done that for you, so you know this side with the band is where the product is. I have tried the Kat Von D pencil a few times because I wanted the comparison to be like fair. I wanted to have figured it out how it works before I show you in comparison to the Anastasia, which I'm really familiar with. So I have used this a good 3 or 4 times before today and I absolutely love it. It is my all-time favourite brow pencil. I find it amazing for doing hair-like strokes, incredibly precise to the point where I no longer have to carve out my brows at all because you can actually carve it out with this so precisely that you don't need to do that anymore. It is a buildable formula and it is very different in its texture and its feel to the Brow Wiz. And it to be much firmer texture, and I definitely agree with that buildable claim and description, because it is, you do need to use a bit of a heavier hand, you don't need to be as careful, you can kind of just build it up, and therefore for me that's ideal because I do have a bit of a heavy hand as it is, and I am not the best at doing brows. I don't have the best natural brows. Brows is not something that I am like phenomenal at all, so I need all the help that I can get, and I feel like that buildable formula for a beginner is really helpful. It just means that you can be a bit freer with it. You can go, you don't have to be so careful, you don't, you know, if you make a mistake, it's not like you've coloured in your whole brow. It's much easier to work with, I find, and a bit more user-friendly for someone who's not a makeup artist or who's not just really good at doing their brows. So I have been really loving that. So without further ado, let's get to the demo. Hopefully you can see my brows as clearly as I can possibly make it. I've turned my lights down so you're kind of getting a more realistic view of what is going on up in my brows. Now obviously I don't have the best natural brows. I do have some microblading on my brows, so yeah, they actually look better than they really are right now. But yeah, so I don't have the best natural brows, got some very faded microblading, and hopefully I stay in focus for as much of this as possible, and I'm going to try not to look down into my mirror because I know you can't see as well, but it's going to be tricky, so bear with me. So I'm going to start off with the Anastasia Brow Wiz on this brow. This is like my favourite brow. I don't know, I think most people have a favourite brow. This is it, so I'm going to use my Brow Wiz on this brow. This is the one that I'm used to, and so I'm just going to start off by drawing a fairly straight line underneath the brow, and it is just with this one, I feel like everything is really light-handed. You hardly apply any pressure whatsoever is needed, and I just sort of start off with like small little strokes, and that is literally enough. Really soft hand, you don't need much pressure whatsoever. I'm just going to elongate my tail a little bit. I just start going through doing like little hair strokes kind of in the direction of the brow. And what I found about the Anastasia one is that it's quite smudgy, I guess. Like you don't need to draw, like every hair doesn't really look like a hair, it just sort of all blends. So I'm just trying to sort of do some hair strokes on the inner corner. This is where I struggle with this pencil, because I feel like it's that bit fatter and it's just that bit creamier, which means that all of the hair strokes I do, I feel like they just sort of melt into one. So I tend to, with this one, I'll like, you know, use this mainly just to do my outline, and then I do like any hair strokes and filling in where I want it to be a bit more natural and a bit more hair-like. I use my dip brow to do that with a finer brush. So that's pretty much all I would do, and then I just usually brush through, but I completely avoid the area where I don't actually have any hair, just here on the inner corner, because I find like when I brush through there, it like moves it or brushes it away because there's no hair sort of holding the product there. So you can see the difference. It's quite subtle, obviously quite natural, but yeah, what I find with the Anastasia one is that it does, it is a bit more smudgy, so you do end up with a bit more of a solid colour. It does need sort of working through the brow after you finish with the spoolie, but I really like it. I've never had any issues with it. So now for the Kat Von D, so I'm just gonna brush through quickly again before I start with this one. And exactly the same, I'm just going to start off by lining underneath the brow, and I do just find the shape of this one amazing to underline, and it is that like firmer texture. As the brand says, it's buildable, so you can apply a bit more pressure and you just can sort of slowly build up as much as you want, rather than the colour, you know, you having to sort of quite control it. If you're like me and quite heavy-handed, I think you'll definitely prefer this one because it's much easier to keep everything natural, to not sort of go in too heavy to make your brow too dark than what you want. So here for me is where I really find quite a difference with this one, is where I'm going in wanting to do brow strokes, particularly at the front of the brow here. So here you can see where I just, you know, sort of filled this in, but it doesn't really look like brow strokes at all because I feel like the Anastasia is too large for that and too soft of a formula. So I'm just gonna do some like hair-like strokes here. With the Kat Von D. And I just find this is where it sets itself apart. So as I said, I'm no brow artist, but you know, I think you'll probably be able to see, hopefully you can see it as well as I can in the mirror, that this side it's just kind of, you know, coloured it in. This side you can still see those sort of hair-like strokes because of the finer tip and because it is that little bit firmer of a texture to the product that I find like it stays in the hair-like strokes as opposed to sort of smudging together. So to me it just looks a bit softer, it looks a little bit more natural because it is that buildable formula and because it is that firmer texture. And then I'm just gonna brush the brow through again. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with both of my brows now, so the rest I just need to carve it out and finish my makeup, and then I'll be back for my final thoughts. Okay, so I'm back and I've done the rest of my makeup. I've done some more filming as well, so my brows have now been on for a good few hours, and I just feel like the difference for me is that the Kat Von D is much sharper. I don't need to carve out my brow with that because the sharpness of the pencil stays really fine, really thin, really precise, and because of that buildable formula, it doesn't smudge, it doesn't sort of shade outside of where you want it to. It's very precise and just very easy to work with. I feel like the hair-like strokes stay in place once you've done the rest of your makeup. You know, you've set your brows with gel and all that kind of stuff. You can still see the definition of where you've done those hair-like strokes, whereas with the Anastasia I feel like it just sort of all blends into one and it's much softer. I think if you have very good natural brows and you are just wanting to add a bit of depth and colour, then you might prefer the Anastasia for that because you'll use less product, you've got more product in the pencil anyway, and it is just a bit softer and you can just use a really light hand just to add a bit of depth to your brow if that's what you want to do. If like me, however, you don't have very good natural brows or you do want to do quite a bit of filling in and outlining and hair-like strokes, for me this one is just unbeatable. It's the best brow pencil I've ever tried, and for someone who is useless at brows, I feel like it's allowed me to do a pretty decent brow, to be fair. I mean, I'm sure everyone's going to tell me they look awful, but personally I feel like they look good. Although it is like still new in my collection and I'm just getting used to it and figuring it out and all that stuff, it's just so easy to use, to work with. I feel like it's quicker, I'm not having to correct mistakes, I don't have to carve out my brow. For everyday natural brow, I don't think I've ever tried anything as good and easy as this one. So there you have it, that is all my thoughts on the new Kat Von D pencil and comparisons to the Anastasia pencil. I hope you found this helpful in some way. As always, any questions that I haven't answered, please ask me in the comments down below, and I would love to help you guys out with anything and help each other out as well in the comments. If you're not already subscribed, please make sure you do that before you go so we can see each other again. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.